I didn't mean to do it. I mean, they sold me out, and as soon as he asked were there any poets in the house, I was the one that got finger pointed, pushed and shoved to the center of a carpet stage, a tiny bookstore in Montgomery, Alabama. It was called Roots and Wings. And I was probably standing somewhere between Nika Giovanni's love poems and I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I think I recall Nathan McCall because it definitely made me want to holler when I looked out at the 50-some odd of my classmates' faces, staring back at me while I nervously tried my photographic memory, trying to recall the words on a page I'd written over and over again, but never imagined I'd say out loud in front of anyone. I was only 17. But somewhere inside, I found the courage, and it carried me line for line until the end. And even after all the hugs and smiles from friends, I was still shaking. And that's when I knew this was real. That's when I knew that words have wings. They're kind of like birds, but mostly like children who you groom and raise. You hope you shape them well, that a sky that has no limits will receive them, that someday somebody will take them home, call them their own, they will find a place to belong. See, I came from a line where righteousness ran through the blood like sugar and Rolling Stone daddies. Maybe those who had been pushing me had been here long before my classmates, maybe my grandmother and my grandfather and their preacher siblings were pushing me too. See, they fed me parables and I acquired a taste for truth. They stood behind pulpits and I stand behind this mic, but just like them, I gotta get on my knees and hum a prayer when words don't suffice. I gotta learn to sing the hymns that cannot be found in hymn books. Learn to lean on everlasting arms and hold fast to the words only God can write on hearts, because these hands, they never knew picking cotton, but the hands that did knew how to spin stories, knew how to sew quilts of memory so I could see my family history in a stitch. And every time my grandmother speaks, I realize that words have roots. They're kind of like trees, but mostly like seeds who you groom and raise. You hope you plant them well, the fertile ground to receive them, that someday somebody will take them home, call them their own. They will find a place to belong. And words keep encouraging me to dream, keep reminding me that God listens when I sing. And that's how I know this is real, and I am still shaking. Good morning, Soul City Church. I am so excited to be with you all. I have actually known Jared and Jeannie Stevens for almost 15 years. We work together quite a bit in Atlanta and still see each other at different events all around. So I have heard all about you and heard all about what God is doing here. So it's just wonderful to get a chance to see your faces and be here in person. The church tradition that I come from does... it's like a habit of when people are visiting the church, they bring greetings. Don't get nervous, because if you're visiting, I'm not about to do this to you. But when I was growing up, my grandma's church and my dad's church, whenever someone was visiting, first of all, you'd ask if it was anyone's first time, and they would have to stand up, which is already like really just makes me super nervous already. So I would stand up because I was from out of town or whatever. And then they would go around and you'd have to bring greetings to the church, each person. And this was always kind of embarrassing for me because there was always like an older auntie that really knew how to bring the greetings well, you know? And then going after her, I just felt very lackluster about my situation. And there's like different parts to how you bring greetings according to this tradition. So first, you have to open by saying, "Give an honor to God, who is the head of my life." Because, you know, hopefully God is. And after you say this, then you would typically say, "I bring you greetings from," and you would name your church name. You know, "I bring you greetings from, you know, Holiness, We Follow Jesus, Real Church of God, of the Lamb, in the City of David," you know, whatever the name of the church was. And then you would typically like say something amazing about your pastor, and there were always these words that as a child I had no idea what they meant, you know. It'd be like, "Bring you greetings from blah, blah, blah church, where our pastor is the most auspicious, the most eloquent, bishop, so-and-so, so-and-so." And then everybody would kind of nod, like maybe they knew this person, or like, "That's cool, he's auspicious." And I'd be like, "What is that? What does that even mean?" And then after they do that, then there was like this little small testimony portion where like you have to give gratitude to God. So then that part would go something like, you know, "I thank God that I have breath in my lungs this morning. I thank God that my bed was not my cooling board." You don't know how long it took me to figure out what a cooling board is. And I was like, oh, that's when you die. Okay. So there was all these like phrases that like everyone kind of knew. I thank God that he picked me up and he turned me around and he placed my feet on solid ground, you know, those things. And then the end of it is where you're supposed to also tell the people to pray for you. And typically that was like a sentence that just didn't seem complete. It was pray my strength. It didn't really have, there's like some words that you felt maybe should have been. Like, is it pray for my strength? Pray that I would have strength? It doesn't matter. Whenever the auntie says, and pray my strength, she does her hand like that and she sits down. So it's like, whatever that means, you pray her strength. In her strength, for her to have strength, whatever you're gonna pray about strength, do that for her. So imagine that by the time she's orating up there, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life, I bring you greetings from certain such Church of God in Christ, Holiness Church of the Lamb in the city of David of Bethlehem of Nazareth, that we worship the Christ. My pastor is the auspicious, most eloquent Bishop Donald Mitchell, such and such, Reverend Dr. Deacon. And I want to thank God that I have breath in my lungs. I want to thank God that I could move my limbs this morning. I want to thank God that my bed was not my cooling board, and y'all pray my strength. And then she would sit down. And then they would go to me and I'd be like, I'm Amena, I live in Atlanta. So I cannot bring you greetings as great as this auntie, but it is my goal to become a great auntie in this manner. So I'm trying to practice. So I'm gonna try to bring you greetings from the South today because I live in Atlanta, Georgia. So I want to bring you greetings from the land of fried chicken. I want to bring you greetings from the land of collard greens, from the land of put pork in everything. I want to bring you greetings from the place where we fry it all. Oreos, hot dogs, chicken, pork chops, whatever it is, we fry it. I bring you greetings from the land of sweet tea, where you sweeten the tea while it's hot. You don't wait until it's cold over ice and put packets of sugar. That's weird. No one wants that. No one wants to do that. So that's not sweet tea. That's not what sweet tea is. Sweet tea, we bring you greetings from the land where you do this while the tea is hot. And you don't use a measuring cup. That's silly. You should just tip the bag over like this. And you just wait for a prescribed amount of time that you feel like, I bet that's right. I wanted to share a little bit of my Southern story with you and a little bit of the roots of my family and just how that really informs and influences the ways that I see God, the ways that I see the world. And I love opening with that poem, Roots and Wings, because it makes me think so much of the time I spent as a child with my grandparents and great-grandparents. And I want to say, if you have grandparents in your life, if you have any older people that you know, please spend time with them. Ask them about their stories. Ask them about the places that they come from. They have so much to teach us, and I'm really thankful for the time I had to sit at the feet of my grandparents. So my grandmother is turning 85 this year, and my grandmother doesn't believe in other people telling her what to do. So she has decided how her birthday is going to be celebrated. So a bunch of us were together at the beach a couple weeks ago, and she was like, y'all going to celebrate my birthday then. And then you can celebrate my birthday on my actual birthday. And part of me was like, your birthday is in October. Why are we celebrating in August? What I'm going to tell you, you're 84 years old. Fine. You're going to celebrate your birthday? We're going to do it. So I've been trying to get my grandma to teach me how to make her cakes, because that's my big memory when I was a kid, when it was your birthday, you know, grandma made you this special cake, you know. So when my birthday came around, I'm like, grandma, come to my house and like, show me how you made the cake. I want to learn, you know, because when grandmas get in the kitchen, it's not like they have a recipe or something, you know. It's like they're in there with like glitter and like some flour like this, and you don't know what's going on. You just know like the food tastes good. You don't have any answers for that. So I'm like, grandma, teach me how to make the cake. And she's like, Mena, I don't know. I'll see if I have time. And I'm like, you're retired. What are you talking about? You don't have time. It's in your schedule. She's like, I'll see. So finally, I'm like, grandma, come on. My birthday's coming up. Teach me how to make the cake. She's like, listen, Mena, I can't teach you how to make that cake because it came from a box, Mena. Sad. It was like all my little childhood dreams were like, meow, meow, meow. Like, no, not my grandma. Not from the cake box, grandma. She was like, yeah, honey, I make my frosting from scratch, but I just use the regular cake mix. And she said, you know, that mix I used to use, I don't even know if they make that mix anymore, Mena. So I'm like, what kind of vintage cake mix is this? They don't make anymore. So I'm already about to get on Amazon like, let me get on here, find out what this cake mix is, order it from my grandma. She's like, well, the mix I used to use is called Supermom. I'm like, what? So I, for some reason, thought she was saying Super Mars, because my grandma still has the North Carolina accent where, like, it's some consonants and a lot of vowels, and you don't really know. Like, the words don't really end with a consonant sometimes, so you like, I think I understand, but I don't know. So I'm trying, Super Mars. So I'm, like, Googling this. Maybe it's the Mars family, and, like, in the 50s, they made cake mix. I mean, I'm, like, in another zone here. Mena, you spell it Supermoist. So you telling me you don't know if they make the Betty Crocker Super Moist that you could get in a gas station? Like, you could go anywhere in America. Small town, big town, gas station, Target. Everybody sells the Super Moist. Like, when we're all gone, the Super Moist probably still gonna be here. Like, you gonna tell me they don't make Super Moist anymore, Grandma? So I'm like, it's cool. We'll go. I'll learn how to make this cake. So I made her the Super Moist cake for her birthday and made the frosting from scratch, you know, like she taught us how to do. So I'm having this memory as we're going through this for her birthday. And my memory is when we would leave my grandmother's house, she would always fry chicken. She'd wrap the chicken in paper towels, wrap the paper towels in foil. She'd make this cake, the yellow cake with the chocolate frosting. She'd cut the slices out, wrap the slices in wax paper, and, like, send us home. Well, like, you're into your road trip or your train or bus ride, whatever, like 3 hours in, and you remember you have that chicken, you open up that box. It's like everybody around you is like, it's like a light came on when you open up the box, and it just tastes like she just made this chicken. And I just thought my grandma did this because grandmas always want to feed you and they want to give you food. But I learned later that she did that because for her, when her family would leave and go on trips, they didn't know if they'd be able to stop somewhere and eat. They didn't know what restaurants were going to serve them. So the best way to know her family would be fed is to fry the chicken, to bake the cake, to wrap it up and give it to your family. And she still does this for us today. And I think it's important that we always study our roots, that we study where we come from. Because sometimes there's a lot of beauty in our roots, right? And then sometimes we discover that there are wrong things that happened in our roots. And that maybe in our present time, we have an opportunity to make some of those wrongs right. So this poem I want to share with you is called Start With Your Roots. And I actually wrote this poem listening to Outkast, which is obviously very holy music. And it's very spiritual. If you haven't listened to Outkast, it is quite spiritual. So, you know, try that. Add that to your worship rotation. Anyway, just a little suggestion. You know, I'm sure that Rosa Parks would be a great thing to have on stage. I'll talk to Jerry and Jeannie about it. Don't worry. And there's a song they have there called Rosa Parks. And any of you that are familiar with this song, you know, there's like this middle part of the song that's like fiddles and washboard. It just sounds like this like hoedown happening in the middle of a hip hop song. And I thought about that. And I thought about all my Southern roots and what does it mean to be from the South and what does that tell me about God and what does that tell me about life and why do I enjoy that? Why do I feel proud of that? Not just being from the South, but being from the people that I come from. So I wanted to share this poem with you that is partly about my grandma and this cake, even though I did not mention the Super Moist because it goes without saying. So here's this poem, Start With Your Roots. Start with your roots, back porch, harmonica, washboard, rhythm of picking beans, grandma saying, close the screen door behind you, it's okay. To be proud to be from the South, to rep for hot summers, cobbler and watermelon sticky fingers, big mama and grandpa, mama and papa, to never wish for better luck or four-leaf clovers because New Year's and black-eyed peas and collard greens, because an itch in the palm of your hand means a payday is coming, because an itch on your nose means a visitor is coming, because you protect your mama's back when you don't step on a crack, because when you see gray hair, you say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, because no matter how old you are, you respect your mama's house, grandma's hands. And kisses on mama's cheeks, dirt under granddad's fingernails from tending his garden, daddy, smelling like homemade oil changes and pork chops, take that with you. Carry it. wrapped in wax paper like grandma's chicken and chocolate cake. Take it in the car, on the bus, on the train, on the plane. Remember why she does this. Remember, she knows the sting of sit in the back, of colored sections, colored entrance, colored water fountains, the long wait on road trips between stops and countertops that may not serve your kind here. She wraps food in wax paper, the same way she hopes her prayers caress the brown skin of her children and children's children to keep them safe from noose and bullet and eyes and hands filled with hate. Take that with you. Read it on crinkly pages like the family Bible with records of deaths and births and weddings and generations. Breathe it in like the scent of candy yams and rain coming and magnolia trees and pig smokers and fried everything. Hold it in your chest like grandma's voice singing that old hymn, It Is Well, like granddaddy giving thanks and holding hands at the head of the table. From there, you can grow. Become your own tree. Spread your branches and limbs, make your own generations, create a place to lean on and find shade. Be spring, embrace summer, fall, but always survive winter bloom. Then plant seeds so they will be here long after your tree ceases to go through the seasons. Start with your roots and always return there. Someone asked me recently, how do I know that God is real? Which is a really tough question to answer. And the only thing that came to my mind was I know God is real because of my grandmothers. That I think of them when I think about what were the first moments of my life that I thought, oh, this person that they're singing about and all these hymns and church services and everything, like this might actually be like a real someone. This God that they keep talking about. My great-grandmother was a part of the mother board in her church. So in their church, that was like a section where all the mothers of the church would sit. And during the week, they would come to my great-grandmother's house and they would pray in her living room. And watching these women pray and sing these songs to God, that line where I'm talking about these hymns that aren't found in hymn books, they knew so many songs that nobody had the sheet music for that. Nobody knew how to play them unless you could hear them singing it for yourself. And that was the first time that I learned that there are so many places God can meet us. In our living rooms, in our hard times, when things are going great and amazing, right? That there are all these spaces where we are that God wants to meet us there. And my great-grandmother had this thing she would do, and other Southern grandmothers did this, so I'm glad to know, because I was like, is something wrong with my grandma that she does this? But my great-grandmother had a thing that when it rained, she believed that you unplug everything in the house. Everything. The alarm clock, the TV, the beta machine. Some of y'all are like, what? What's beta? Beta was there before VHS. Some of y'all like, what's a VHS? Anyway, you can just Google these things. It's like, you had to put like a little box into this thing, and then you had to rewind it. You had to wait. You just watched a movie, you got to rewind it and wait till it gets. Some of y'all like, what? Why would you do that? There's a Blu-ray. No, there was no Blu-ray at all at that time. So she would unplug her beta machine. The only thing she didn't unplug was the fridge and the oven, probably because she couldn't get back there. If she could have got back there, she would have unplugged all of it. And after she unplugged everything and turned all the lights out, she would say, Mena, you be still and you be quiet when God is working. And I was busy because I was 6 and I was playing with My Little Pony. And if you've ever played with My Little Pony, it takes up a lot of time. You got to braid the hair. There's like some glitter and some crimps going on. Like I was very, very focused on the task. So I was like, that's cool, Grandma, but you go ahead and unplug the stuff. You lay down. I'm going to go ahead and play. Plus, I hate it when it rains. At which time, my grandma cut her eye at my grandfather. And when two people been married as long as they've been married, you can kind of cut your eye at each other and say things without saying words in front of the other person. But I was just interpreting that she was cutting her eye at him, and then he put his hand on his belt right here. And I'm just gonna tell y'all, my grandparents didn't believe in timeout and stuff like that. So, you know, when my grandfather put his hand on his belt, I was like, yo, I totally have regrets. Like, I really love when it rains, actually. Like, I think rain's great. You said you want to lay down? Me too. Me too. I want to lay down, too. So I would lay there next to my great-grandmother, and we would just lay down in the dark till the storm was over. And long after she's been gone, I think about that phrasing, be still, be quiet, when God is working. And I don't dig it, because I would love to multitask with God. I would love to pray and ask him for something, but kind of do some of it myself. Because I don't know if y'all know this about God, but God's like timeline is really different from ours. And like, I just want to help him manage his time. You know, like, you know how like a busy like business person kind of like needs an assistant? That's what I'm trying to be for God. Like, I know I asked you about this, and for some reason, you haven't answered. Let me help you. Let me do this. You don't have to worry about it. But it doesn't work that way. Even when I don't see it, God is always working. And sometimes the best thing I can do is be still, be quiet while he's working. So this week, I want you to think about a moment you can take to be still and be quiet before God. Not how you can fix whatever you've been asking God for, not how you can change whatever is going on in your life right now that you are like, I'm done with this. I have so many moments with God that I'm like, you know, if this is like a class, I feel like I passed. Let me out. Let me graduate. And God's like, if you talking to me about you being ready to graduate, you're not ready to graduate. I need to let God do his work. One of the ways that God taught me this is in a time this year when my body just failed me. Had to go into the hospital, had to go through a long recovery period, almost 8 weeks at home of literally doing nothing. Like my doctor's like, once you get out of the hospital, you need to go in recovery, and during your recovery time, lay down. You can get up and walk a little bit, but you don't need to be lifting a lot of stuff. You don't need to be out here doing all these things. Like your body is going to do its best healing when you're resting. That was terrible advice for me. I was like, cool, I'll do that for like 3 weeks. To the last 3 weeks, I got these projects I'm going to finish. And I got these things I'm going to do. And I got all this to-do list. Because surely I'm not going to spend 6 to 8 weeks doing nothing. Got back from the hospital and my body was like, girl, I've been waiting to talk to you. Please have a seat forever. And during that time, I learned something about healing. Because even when we talk about looking back at our roots, whether that's in our family or in our own lives, in our history, when we talk about that, a part of what has to happen a lot of times is we have to heal from the things in our roots. And I learned in that moment the best thing I could do, the best active thing I could do was to be still and be quiet and let God do his working. And I'm big into conversation. I guess as you can see, I'm making a living talking to people, which works out great. My mom is here with me. Hey, Mom. And all my time growing up, that was like the main complaint my teachers had about me. We love having Amena in class. She has a great personality. We think she's very smart, but she's talking all the time. Like, she let me read through my report cards. That's like very consistent all the way through high school. So I was like, that's cool. I'll make a living of talking. Now what? Now what, Mrs. Smith? What you think about it now? Sorry, wasn't supposed to say that. Anyhow, but what you think about it, Miss Smith? Okay, so because I love talking, I'm always listening to other people's conversations. Like, this is a big part for me of being a poet. Like, if I'm in a coffee shop or something, I'm like, girl, they breaking up. Shh, shh, shh. Girl, she didn't even know. She mad. Like, I'm nosy all the time. For creative reasons, obviously. So I wanted to go through the New Testament, those first 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. I wanted to go through those and study some of the conversations that Jesus had with women in the Bible. What were the things they were saying to him, and what were the things he was saying to them? I wanted to sort of eavesdrop on those conversations. And a few of the conversations that really stuck out to me, one was the woman with the issue of blood. In this story, she is so sick. She's been sick with some issue for years and years and years. And she decides to crawl through this crowd and just says to herself, if she can touch Jesus' clothing, she believes that she'll be healed. She touches him, and this condition she's had goes away from her body. And Jesus feels even the energy go out of him as she experiences this healing in her body. And I find in this conversation, in Jesus talking to the Samaritan woman at the well, in Jesus talking to Mary and Martha after Lazarus died, the woman who washed Jesus' feet with her hair, there were so many moments that Jesus was having conversations with people that the crowd thought he shouldn't even be talking to. They didn't even think those people were worthy of his time. But he chose to talk to them. He chose to tell them about faith and about healing, about what happens when you let God do his work. And as I thought about that, the woman at the well really stuck with me the most, because I sort of pictured myself there thinking, what is my well? What's my place that I'm waiting? Waiting to be filled, be satisfied, waiting for an answer, waiting to understand, waiting to stop hurting. What's my stuff that has me waiting at the well? And what does Jesus walk up and say when he meets me there? I don't know what storms you're going through today. I don't know how easy or hard it is for you to be still and be quiet. But I know wherever you are, Jesus is waiting there. Whatever that well is that you happen to be leaning on right now, whatever that want or that frustration is, I know that Jesus is waiting at that well. And if you're anything like me, trying to fix it all the time, trying to see how you can do it yourself, you have an opportunity to say to God today that you want to be still. You want to be quiet while God is working. As I close, I'm going to share a poem with you. We're going to sing a song. And then we're going to go on into our week. But I want you to know wherever you are in life today, that when you have Jesus in your life, it doesn't mean it will be easier. It doesn't mean that you will have all the answers all of a sudden. It doesn't mean those things. It means you got somebody who knows what it's like to hurt, who knows what it's like to lose, who wants to walk with you through everything. That's what Soul City's here for. We want you to walk with that Jesus who wants to walk you through your wells, your storms, and whatever it is life throws at you. Here's this last poem, Waiting at the Well. We wait at wells. We come to try the water we hope will satisfy our souls instead of our throats. We come up empty because insecurities, comparing and keeping up appearances don't fill us as much as we thought they would. Jesus waits at our wells to ask us about the thirst that lies underneath our obsessive ambitions, the ways we cling to our status, how we search for identity in the temporary. Jesus doesn't get caught up in our headlines. He knows our backstory. He knows the broken places we come from. He knows about sickness and disease, about doctor visits but no cure, about being broke and broken, that our only hope for healing lies in our reach for the hem of his clothing. He knows we worry about so many things. But he wants us to find ourselves at his feet, to pour out our concerns and hopes and dreams. He wants us to take his truth and fold it into our hearts until we find it coming alive in our lives. He wants us to choose him over money, over popularity, over comfort and privilege and pride. He knows sometimes we are waiting for miracles where our prayers seem to be dangling and unanswered midair. He knows we have watched sickness and death come for our loved ones. He knows we have been rattled by calamity and tragedy. He wants us to press through the crowds, press past the fear that says we don't deserve him, past the shame that says we are unworthy. He wants to walk with us on our journey into the unknown, even when we carry doubt and uncertainty. He finds us waiting at the well because we want so badly to get well. Because he knows how many years we've spent trying to fix ourselves, searching for love in the most dangerous of places, expecting to be taken advantage of. He knows we cannot fathom his kind of love, the kind of love that must arrive at a cross and a crown of thorns. There are some things that Jesus will Good Friday lay to rest, and some things that he will Lazarus Easter Sunday resurrect. He knows about standing beside tombs, that sometimes where it seems life has written us an ending, Jesus has pen strokes that write us new beginnings. Jesus is waiting at the well for the tired, for the weary, for the thirsty, for the poor and the oppressed, for the outcasts and the overlooked, for the many, for the few. Jesus is waiting for you.